It was the only way out for Afghan civilians. Abbey Gate, Kabul Airport, August 2021. Tens of thousands of Afghans swarming the gate, desperate to escape Taliban rule. 6,000 U.S. troops dispatched to aid in the evacuations. 23-year-old Marine Corps Sergeant Nicole G. was among them.
She shared with me that she had never seen people so desperate. And I think once she saw that, she was just going to give 100% to help them be rescued.
Nicole posting this image with an Afghan child less than a week before her death with the caption, "I love my job."
And that's exactly, I feel like, how everybody there felt. They loved what they were doing and they were so proud.
31-year-old Staff Sergeant Taylor Hoover certainly loved his. He was on his third deployment to Afghanistan.
I have heard from many of his friends, his men, that had said that when it was time for them to take a break, he didn't want to. He wanted to stay out there and continue to bring people in.
And 22-year-old Humberto Sanchez, known as Bert, who had joined the Marine Corps at 17 with permission from his mother, Coral.
One day he just showed up and said, "I want you to go and sign up because I enlisted in the Marines." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Because I want to be the best of the best and I want to make you proud."
These Marines, just 3 of the 13 U.S. service members.
All right, guys, so all odds are going to be on Joe Biden tonight as he gets set to give his State of the Union address heading into the 2024 election. Now, both sides of the political aisle, Democrats and Republicans, have invited guests to come to the State of the Union address to highlight and talk about some of the biggest issues that we're currently facing in this country today. Now, Democrats are inviting people like, for example, healthcare providers to talk about abortion. They are inviting gun control advocates, individuals that fit the left-wing agenda. However, Republicans are taking a little bit of a different route when it comes to some of their guests that they are inviting, as they are investigating the Afghanistan withdrawal. You guys remember the botched Afghanistan withdrawal, probably the worst moment in Joe Biden's presidency, where we had 13 U.S. service members, 13 heroes that tragically lost their lives at the hands of a terrorist suicide bomber that decided to attack them as they were withdrawing from Afghanistan. Okay, we were getting out of Afghanistan, and the Biden administration decided to stay longer than we needed to stay, despite multiple intelligence reports indicating that, hey, an attack is imminent, okay, that there is going to be an attack. He was warned. However, he didn't really seem to listen, okay? He didn't seem to listen, and unfortunately, it resulted in the loss of life of 13 U.S. service members. And the way that Joe Biden handled the situation afterwards really came under scrutiny, because the parents of these individuals, the Gold Star parents, they have been criticizing Biden for his lack of empathy and the fact that it seems like he doesn't really care too much about the families or the fact that they lost loved ones in his botched Afghanistan withdrawal. And they have been very open about criticizing Joe Biden and his response to their tragic loss.
Days later, the remains of all 13 service members would arrive at Dover Air Base, greeted by President Biden. But these families say he offered little comfort.
The administration didn't seem to know our story. They didn't seem to know Nicole's name, our names. People from the military certainly knew our story, Nicole's name, our names, and that was expressed to us in a way that felt very genuine and loving. But when it came to the people in suits, it felt disingenuous and hollow.
First, he called me Mrs. Lopez, and I was not Mrs. Lopez. And he just talked about his son and said how much he knows or he understands how do we feel, because he lost his kid and he didn't know how we feel. because he was there with his son when he passed. We didn't have that privilege. We received our kids in a casket. I just feel so disrespectful by that man because it was all about him.
We had decided as a family that we would not meet with the president. So we were actually in a room on the side. We had decided because strong opinions, and then out on the tarmac, it made it even worse. The disrespect that we were shown with him checking his watch, not even looking at us. It was just total disrespect.
Someone screamed at President Biden, "Burn in hell."
That was my daughter. Yes, and she meant it.
In response, spokesperson John Kirby said in a statement, the White House understands these Gold Star families are still grieving and suffering and that little can be done to ease their pain. We do hope they know how deeply committed the President and First Lady remain to honoring the service and sacrifice of their Marines, their soldier, and their sailor.
Yeah, so you've seen that, you heard that. Okay, so Biden has faced a lot of criticism from Gold Star parents about his response to the botched Afghanistan withdrawal. The fact that he does not seem to be the consoler in chief. However, despite this known knowledge that we have about how Gold Star families don't really like Joe Biden too much in his response, you have state propaganda television, CNN, trying to overtly run this propaganda on their network that somehow, some way, Joe Biden is known as the consoler in chief. And they brought on a Gold Star mother to ask Joe Biden about this going into his State of the Union address. And let's just say that the answer in regards to what this Gold Star mother wants to hear from Joe Biden and her feelings about Joe Biden being the consoler in chief, it was not what CNN wanted to hear. Take a look.
You have been critical of how President Biden has talked about the withdrawal from Afghanistan. Tomorrow, he's going to be addressing a lot of global issues, probably in his State of the Union address. What do you want to hear from him about the 2 years ago, what happened to your daughter-in-law?
I want to hear how he's going to strengthen our armed forces and support them and answer our questions and lead to a thorough investigation like they promised so that we can move forward in a positive way and make it better.
President Biden, he's often called the consoler in chief. He does talk to families who have lost loved ones because of his own experiences. Have you experienced that from him as you've been coping with the death of Nicole?
No.
Have you spoken to him?
No, he has not reached out to our family. We've actually reached out to the White House and have never heard back. We asked to meet with them to kind of understand where their thinking was in calling this a success, and we've not received a response. It's been months. No, that's not been our experience at all.
Sorry to hear that. Chairman McCall, my understanding is that you have a hearing coming up in about 2 weeks.
Amazing. State propaganda backfire. Okay, that's what that was. Okay, because if you listen to the way that Abby Phillip is framing this question, she says, well, Biden is often called the consoler in chief. Well, again, I'm not sure exactly where she gets that from, okay, because these Gold Star families have been speaking out quite a bit about how that is not what Joe Biden is. He has done a terrible job at consoling them and dealing with the grief that they're experiencing from their tragic loss. And then she tries to also run the propaganda from the White House about how, well, Biden really understands what these families are going through because, he's experienced his own loss. But Biden is not a Gold Star parent, okay? Beau Biden, again, I think he died tragically in the sense that, having a brain tumor and dying at such a young age, being what seemed to be one of the more talented Bidens, right? Yes, it's a tragic thing. But Biden was by the side of his son when his son died, okay? And he did not die as a result of war, okay? He was not a casualty of war. Yes, he may have served in the National Guard and was in Iraq. However, that doesn't mean that he died in the line of duty. He didn't die in the line of duty, okay? So they're not the same thing. And to try to compare those things is disrespectful. And that is why I think these parents are very turned off by how Joe Biden is handling this, because apparently Joe is making it all about himself, right? He's making it all about himself and his son, and he wants to talk about his losses. And I don't know who's advising Joe Biden, okay, but I don't think that is good advice to tell the president that, hey, you need to talk about yourself when you are addressing these Gold Star families, and to try to compare your situation to theirs, because it's not comparable. It's not comparable. And to act like it's comparable, again, it's disrespectful. And you see it time and time and time again. These families are coming out and saying this stuff that you guys are saying about Joe Biden being the consoler in chief is just not true. It's not true. So again, I don't think that Abby Phillip expected that response, because I don't think that she would have framed the question the way that she framed it. Had she expected that response, she should have known that this Gold Star mother was not going to come out here and to say nice things about Joe Biden consoling her family, when, again, it's been known that that's not who he is. He has not been good at that. But again, this is what you get on state-sponsored television, right? And I don't think that the state propagandists, Abby Phillip, was expecting that answer from her, because she just kind of moved on. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. But moving on, let me make sure I talk about something else, because I don't want to focus on this too much. Again, it's amazing how that works. Absolutely amazing. So that being said, the tragic deaths that happen as a result of Biden's Afghanistan withdrawal policy, okay, is not the only deaths that is going to be in the spotlight during Biden's State of the Union address that are a result of his policy failures. Biden, or the Biden administration, was asked about the death of Laken Riley, the young college student out in Georgia that was tragically murdered by an illegal immigrant who was allowed into the country as a result of Biden's open border policies, paroled into the country, and was allowed to stay because of sanctuary city policies that go out of their way to not help the feds arrest illegal immigrants who commit crimes and deport them. The Biden administration was asked about this and whether or not Biden would mention her name, or would he talk about the situation? Would he address the situation at all? And of course, the Affirmative Action Press Secretary, Cringe Jean-Pierre, gives a word salad non-answer to this very important question. Take a look.
Last one. Yeah. Will President Biden publicly address Laken Riley's murder, allegedly at the hands of an illegal immigrant who was released by law enforcement multiple times on Thursday night? I know he's got a statement, but what about at the State of the Union?
Look, this is such a tragic story and obviously situation. This is someone's life that was lost, so I do want to always acknowledge and extend our deepest condolences to her family and to her friends and the people who loved her. And so want to always be sure to say that, and because it's so tragic. Look, I don't have anything to share about the president's speech as it relates to that particular question that you have. But we want to always be sure that we lift up the families who have lost their loved ones in that way. And I would reiterate, you just asked me about the Border Patrol chief. The president was just there with the current chief, Owens. The president went to the border, obviously Bronzeville, Texas, to lift up the importance of doing something at the border. And I would be remiss if I did not continue to say that Republicans rejected a bipartisan proposal that came out of the Senate. And so if they truly, truly cared about what was going on at the border, if they truly cared about this immigration policies and trying to fix that, trying to move forward in a way where we have a tough and fair law, they would work with us on it. They wouldn't listen to the former president, who is clearly telling Republicans to reject it for his own political gain. And that's shameful. That's truly shameful.
Yeah, so I want you guys to notice how the White House is strategically not saying Laken Riley's name, okay? And they're doing that on purpose. And you know how I know they're doing that on purpose? Well, it's because when it comes to tragic events that fit their political agenda, okay, that have the correct skin color of the victim, they have no problems giving condolences, talking about how terrible it is, and saying the name of the individual, the victim that lost their life tragically.
What's the White House's reaction to the police detective who shot and killed Breonna Taylor getting hired by a sheriff's office that's actually fairly close to Louisville, where the tragedy occurred?
Yeah, so look, I'm not able to speak about this specific individual, but I want to reiterate what the president has said himself when it comes to Breonna Taylor's death. It was a tragedy and a blow to her family, her community, and also America more broadly. And the president has said repeatedly he believes that a key part of building trust between law enforcement and the communities they serve is ensuring that there's accountability when we see an officer violate the public trust. That's why he signed, as you know, the executive order to enhance accountability at the federal level, and why he continues to call for Congress to pass the George Floyd Justice Policing Act.
Yeah, amazing. Absolutely amazing. Okay, you see the difference there. She had no issue saying Breonna Taylor's name in reference to her death, the tragic death. However, when it comes to Laken Riley, she doesn't say Laken Riley's name for whatever reason, okay? It doesn't have too much really to say about her death or the real solutions that we should be considering in order to prevent this in the future, okay? Because the solution is sitting on Chuck Schumer's desk in the Senate, the Secure the Border Act, which Chuck Schumer refuses to bring to the floor of the Senate to allow his colleagues to vote on it and to send it to Joe Biden's desk so he can sign and actually close the border. So again, it's the fault of Democrats. It's the fault of Joe Biden for the illegal immigration crisis and the tragedies that are happening as a result of the illegal immigration crisis. But yet they don't want to say the names of the individuals that are losing their lives as a result of their policies. Again, it's amazing how that works. Unfortunately for Laken Riley, the narrative is not correct, and she's not the right skin color for the Biden administration to really care too much. So that being said, I don't expect Joe Biden to say her name at the State of the Union address, but you'll probably hear names of individuals that fit the narrative for Democrats. You'll hear that all night long. It's unfortunate that this is how politics works. But Joe Biden, I think really more so than anything, the goal of his State of the Union address is to get through it, right? To get through it without any type of major mental disaster that could happen, because Joe Biden is clearly too old to cognitively function correctly. And I think that he's just trying to avoid a Mitch McConnell moment, okay? And I think that's why all eyes will be on Joe Biden tonight to see if he has a major slip up that the mainstream liberal media or state-sponsored media will have to try to clean up afterwards to say, oh, it's just Republicans fear-mongering. You really need to be paying attention to Trump and the mistakes that he makes, yada, yada, yada. We all know what they'll do if Joe Biden happens to screw up. But again, the American people know, evidenced by the polls, that Biden is having some issues. And I think that the goal for Biden tonight is to make it through the State of the Union address without having a major issue happen or some type of Mitch McConnell moment that could destroy his campaign for re-election. But we'll see. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.